If you're just joining us, you're tuned into the Foxworth Theory, and I'm your host, Eugenia Foxworth. And today's guest is Denise Colestock Tamez. Denise, who and or what inspired you to work in the field of sustainable design?
I don't know if there was a necessary entity that, promoted sustainable design to me, but my dad was always service oriented, and above and beyond his work, I saw what he did in the community, and it kind of resonated with me. And I don't think I actually aligned that at a younger age. I started thinking about it recently, but his work in the community and what he's always done has kind of prompted me to always be community oriented, service oriented. And I always knew that I had to be connected to something at a higher level. It was kind of that and a combination of the church I belonged to. In high school, we did community service over the summer. We built homes on Native American reservations and all kinds of service projects. And that kind of service spoke to my soul. I knew that I had to lead a life that was bigger than just me. And when I learned about sustainable design, you can't really be bigger than that. It affects the entire globe, right? Our earth is all we have. And I was able to kind of combine that passion of service and something bigger than myself with my love for art and design. And that's kind of where it all started.
Yes, and I'm listening to you. And it seems like your childhood, when you were growing up, just sort of came together. I mean, you basically said no one really influenced you, it just happened. But did you even imagine then working in any part of the field that you're working in now? And where the quality of our structures can affect everyday life. Mm-hmm. I mean, you seem to be avant-garde anyway, so perhaps you can explain, speak about it.
Sure. No, I never imagined being what I am today. In high school, you go to the counselor and they talk about all these careers that are available. Being where I am now was never an option. That was never said to me. So it's, I didn't go to college for it. I didn't seek it out. When I graduated design school, it was in the heart of the 2009 recession. And, here I was graduating with a design and architecture field, and the construction industry is taking a collapse. So I ended up in sales, and I never imagined myself being in sales. And then I went through 2 companies and then found Milliken. Milliken is an extremely special company. They're a global company, and they are sustainable to a T, and they're always striving to do better. And I couldn't be with a better company for my own morals and values. And they allow me to seek that knowledge beyond, what my daily, job is. And I'm able to use that knowledge that I seek in my job because I'm representing, a company that shares my values. So when I represent Milliken every day, I'm representing something that I believe in. So that's kind of where that happened.
And, in addition, what has been the toughest part of this journey as one working within this particular field?
Convincing others that it's important. Convincing others who make decisions that sustainability and wellness are important. I think, we discussed earlier kind of the path where well building has taken. LEED took years to be a household name. It took years for it to be, an entity that was used every day. And once it was used every day, once everybody said, Oh yeah, energy efficiency is important. Sustainable buildings are important. Until then, it was a challenge. And now, prior to the pandemic, getting people to understand why the well building standard was important, it was hard. It was a challenge. Prior to the pandemic, it was an altruistic idea about creating healthy spaces so that people can live healthy lives. Fast forward to the pandemic, and now health and safety are mandatory. The market push is to have buildings that are healthy and safe to return to. And now building owners, chief executive officers, chief of HR, operations, they're looking at it as an opportunity to give back to their employees and to create these spaces that are safe. And so now the hard part is keeping up with the demand, because now everybody understands the importance. And I think that's probably the most exciting part about, the pandemic. I cannot say that the pandemic has been a great thing, but in terms of fast forwarding our society into knowing and believing that our spaces need to be healthy, I think that has been the light at the end of the tunnel.
And I totally agree with you, because I was on end listening to you when I first met you. And I learned so much that you never think about.
Mhm.
Now, so basically, you use your business and your platform to mentor and motivate others.
Yes. Yeah, to put it mildly, the well building standard, it's not part of my job, but it has become part of my job because I have an outlet where I can educate numerous amounts of people about the well building standard, about healthy buildings. And I work with designers every day who, for the most part, 99% of building designers, commercial designers, are looking to create spaces that are better, spaces that improve human lives, because they are the front door to human health. They're choosing the materials, they're creating the space, they're deciding where that light comes from. So I get to help them with my knowledge on the well building standard in those designs.
So what is it about your work that you enjoy the most?
Getting interesting opportunities like this one. I think just meeting new people every day. I basically get paid to make friends. And, I had a colleague say that the other day, and it's true, when you work with so many people on such an intimate level of creating buildings together, you start to create these relationships that last a lifetime. And, you meet new people every day. And I love that. I love being thrown into a situation that, provides opportunity. And, speaking at the real estate conference, that was definitely a rare opportunity. And I would say that I don't think I would get that with any other job.
I agree. And, we were so happy to have you on board. I was like, is she coming? Is she coming? So then I said, no, she's got to tell others about it, because, the Foxworth theory is everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you just explained that you do work with realtors. You work with private owners, businesses, and various organizations. How does that work?
So I would say, in terms of working with other organizations, like IIDA, International Interior Design Association, IFMA, International Facility Managers Association, those are just boards I belong to. And that's, to network, to meet people in the industry, kind of, promote the company, promote yourself. In terms of working with associations, that is more on an educational basis, educating them about the company I work for, about the well building standards, sustainable design. And, that happens every day.
Okay. Now, you are an account executive for the Milliken Corporation. Mm-hmm. And Milliken is one of the largest companies established that deal with textiles. Can you give us a brief history of Milliken?
Sure. Sure. I think the history of Milliken is what makes the company so incredible. It's been around since Abraham Lincoln was president. They started the company in performance textiles, and now there is a chemical division. There's the floor covering division, textiles division. It's a global company. Their headquarters in South Carolina. They base their business off innovation and design. There's 100 PhDs on staff in South Carolina who are researching every day how we can make our products more sustainable, how we can make them better. For example, with plastics, we have worked with other companies to come up with ways that plastics can be recycled more than once. Right now, about 90% of our plastics are only recyclable about one time. So there's now a way to recycle them 3 times. And that's a big deal when plastics are a huge part of our planetary problem in terms of overuse. We need to learn how to reduce and recycle as much as possible. So Milliken has a floor covering division, and that's the one I work for. So they create floor covering that lasts longer. Their whole vision is if it doesn't need to be replaced, then you're not creating more in the landfill, right? So they make a product that lasts 40% longer than any other product on the market. And I love that because not only is it completely sustainable and can be broken down if need be, but it's not going to get there until 40 years from now. And so I worked on a project where the carpet outperformed its design. So the design lost fashion and they wanted to take it out and replace it. So because it was high performing, we placed it into a charter school and it's still high performing to this day. So that's kind of what I do on a daily basis is I try to incorporate the well building standard, but also educate designers on products and how they can pick products that are more sustainable.
Mm-hmm. So do you find your work as a well faculty and a lead expert? Does it help in your current position as an account executive? And if so, how?
Of course. I think designers have started to come to me with questions on sustainable materials, transparency. There are credential systems like Declare and Cradle to Cradle, which kind of basically tell the life cycle of a product. You can look at the LPDs, the life cycle analysis of a product, the health declarations of a product. Basically, when you go to the grocery store and you look at a boxed food, you look at the ingredient list, and you can now do that with products. And a lot of companies like Milliken are 100% transparent. So we've declared all of our ingredients. So designers are now coming to me and saying, hey, can you help us with these products, these categories? We're designing, this type of building. Where should we go to find, these ingredients? Where should we go to find these sustainable products to put in this building?
I know you touched on it, but I wanted to ask you, how did you become part of the Milliken Corporation?
It's all in who you know. Being very well connected here in San Diego, I had a friend that works in the industry, and she let me know about the opening. And it took me 6 months to get the position, and I've been here for 7 years.
That is great. I applaud you. A lady after my heart. Okay, so let's go back to the well building standard, which measures and monitors the building's environment that impacts human health and well-being. What are the many levels of this standard, and why are these factors so important?
In terms of levels, I assume you mean the 10 concepts that go into it. So
yes.
We have air, water, movement, light. There's 10 of them. So what goes into it, so you have these 10 concepts, and then underneath them are the parts. And there's 108 features And within those features are the parts that you have to accomplish. So when you enroll your project into the well building standard, you are given a digital platform, and it's up to you to determine what your goals are. Not everybody's goals or journey is going to look the same. So the well building standard is going to look different for everyone. There's a minimum, there's prerequisites that have to be hit, or else you can't go further. And then there's up to well platinum. So you can get well bronze, which is just the basic, and you go all the way up to well platinum, which means you've reached just about every single concept that the well building standard has to offer. So as your stakeholders meet and develop those goals and look at what's available, that's when you decide what you hope to accomplish. Because a smaller building might not have the amenities that a really large building has. So there might be sections that aren't applicable to that building. So that's kind of when you decide what's applicable, what are your goals, what are your intentions.
Okay, so what are some of the key important factors that you share with professionals to make sure the well and LEED standards are met?
Right, so I think the most important thing is to make sure everybody is on the same page. It involves operations, design, policy, HR, every single person is involved. It's not just a CEO decision. It's from the facilities who are going to be operating and maintaining it on a daily basis to HR who are going to be writing it into policy. There's non-smoking policies, that has to be written into HR. There's mental health policies that has to be written into HR. Everyone has to be a part of it, in the decision-making to the creation. And I think that's the thing that surprises everyone, is people are surprised at who is involved. And I love that. I think it brings everyone to the table. It gives everyone a voice. And that's the most surprising thing that I hit every day.
Okay, there was something that I know that you did not mention. I'm just going to throw in, because when we were talking, you had mentioned now with the pandemic,
Yes,
how it has affected people working remotely and then going back and into the brick and mortar style that we were
right.
accustomed to.
So are you referring to the health and safety ratings?
Yes.
So pre-pandemic, there were about 5.7 million square feet enrolled in some well capacity. Fast forward to post-pandemic, if you will, there's over 2 billion square feet enrolled. And the reason why there's that huge shift is because during the pandemic, operations and policymakers had to create a way so people can return back to their spaces and feel confident that the spaces were healthy and safe for them to return to. So the health and safety rating was created by the International Well Building Institute. Scientists, doctors, professionals, everything was the same as the well building standard. All the research went into it to create the standard. And it's an easier, faster, less expensive way to certify a building to be safe and healthy to return to. And there was a huge commercial that was done with celebrities to create the market push. With that commercial, they wanted us to know that, hey, here's this transparent way to know what your building has done for you so that you can feel confident walking into a space and know that it's healthy and safe. So a lot of building owners have taken that and used that as a way to communicate with their stakeholders and guests. When you see that seal on the front door and it says IWBI Well Building Health and Safety Rating, you know that your building has gone above and beyond to do what is necessary to be healthy and safe to return to.
Yeah, and for some of the younger people, they'll be surprised. Layla was one of the people that endorsed
Lady
Robert
Gaga.
De Niro. I mean, so many people endorse this. So, it's something Milliken also is a company that is really moving forward. Amazon and all those other companies are your clients. I mean, I can't even go through all of them, but everybody knows Fortune 500s, teeny weenies, everyone. But what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Oh, goodness. What accomplishment in my life or in my career?
Whatever.
Oh, my son, I have two children. One is 11 and one is 3. So the 3-year-old has some time to prove herself. But my 11-year-old, I think he's my best accomplishment. He is extremely loving and compassionate. And I think as a parent, that's all you can ask for, right? That your offspring is compassionate and open-minded. Of course, he's going through the tween years right now. So communication is, can be left to the imagination. But I would say in his heart and soul, he attacks life with his heart on his sleeve. And he is the type of person that'll go around a bug on the sidewalk because he knows that every single life deserves to live, no matter how small or how big. So I honestly think that's my greatest achievement. I'm not sure if that's just nurture versus nature. I have no idea, and we'll never know. But to me, I think that's my greatest accomplishment. So.
Well, before we go to our quick break, I want to say that after all the things that, I read and that you spoke about before, I'm still in awe that you have time to do triathlons. And on that note, we have to take a quick break before we leave, and we will be right back with more of Denise Colestock, Tamez. You're tuned into the Foxworth Theory, and I'm your host, Eugenia Foxworth. Today's guest, Denise Colestock, Tamez, executive and interior design professional with the Militant Corporation. Would you mind explaining to our viewers and listeners in layman terms, what is the WELL Building Standard?
So the WELL Building Standard was established in 2014, and there was a six-year peer review process with scientists, experts, researchers, to develop a credential system, basically a points-based system that the built environment can use to evaluate human health. So for example, with air, there's a lot of overlap between leadership and energy design, and WELL, and air and water is a big part of that. So the air we breathe, how it's circulated, how it's filtered, all of that is decided upon by the designers. So the WELL Building Standard starts with design. How is the building created? And it uses these standards, it uses these 108 features to ask these questions. Are you implementing stairs for circulation? Are you creating a fitness goal for your employees? Are you providing amenities that's going to create healthy environments? So the WELL Building Standard has those 10 different concepts, and a lot of it is between the design of the building and the operations. How is the building operated on a daily basis?
Okay, which leads me to why is the WELL Building Standard so important to our everyday life?
It's extremely important to our everyday life because, 1,000 years ago, we were going to bed with the sun, we were waking up with the sun, we were hunter and gatherers, we were moving our bodies every day. We were hunting for our food, we were cooking our food, preparing it all day, right? And so fast forward to now, and we put ourselves in these boxes with artificial air, artificial light, and we're expected to perform the same as we did 1,000 years ago, except the biology isn't there, right? It's not meeting the biology of our bodies. So we need to create these spaces that inhibit disease. We need to create these spaces that empower our human health, because our human health and our happiness, our well-being is completely aligned with our productivity. And that productivity is what makes us happy. If we're not productive, we're not happy. If we're not happy, then that productivity falls, right? So that built environment has a direct impact on how our bodies handle stress, productivity, everything.
Okay, and you mentioned the LEED.
Yes.
Now explain to us, what is the LEED standard?
So the LEED program is a way to design a building to be energy efficient, kind of beyond being energy efficient. You know, some examples are the water flow, making sure that there's not too much flow in a building using just what the building needs, the airflow, the circulation, so many different things in terms of how the LEED building standard works. And then it's the same way, you know, buildings, if you enroll your project into being a LEED, then you have to accomplish certain criteria to be certified. And being in San Diego in California, now we have such strict policies, built environments policies out here, that almost every new building now is LEED Silver. Silver is the bottom line of what you can be. And so I think the rest of the country is starting to catch up, where we're starting to learn that we should build to not only protect the environment, but it's also the bottom line of a business, right? So if you're creating an energy efficient business, you're not spending extra money on things that aren't necessary, on energy being wasted, on water being wasted. So it's kind of what LEED is.
Right. So I know you've touched on it, but I'm a layman and I've heard you speak before. And as I said, I was in awe. How does the WELL standard work in tangent with the LEED standard? I know you touched on it, but
Sure. So they're completely two different standards, but there's a lot of overlap. So whereas LEED is for buildings and WELL is for people, both entities together create the best spaces, most healthy spaces. So LEED is going to concentrate on the building, the built envelope of the building, whereas WELL is going to focus on the occupant health. So it's going to focus a little bit more on nutrition. What is the cafe serving? What is, you know, what are the vending machines serving? How many ounces of sugar are, you know, in that Coke? And it's going to concentrate on circulation, interior fitness. Are there sit-to-stand desks? Is there access to stairs? Whereas the LEED building is going to be more engineering, more architectural based.
well, I know why this should matter to the everyday person, but would you like to explain it in a more professional manner than I would?
Sure. And it's not about, you know, professional versus non-professional. It's just about our everyday basic needs, right? Human health is a basic need. We cannot live a successful life if we're not healthy. And when we spend 90% of our time indoors, which I thought was a staggering statistic, but it's true. You think about your commute to work, your time in the office. If you go to the gym, that's inside, and then you're home, you're sleeping. 90% of our time is spent indoors. And that all of the materials and the air we breathe and the water we drink have an effect on our human health. So we should all care about the spaces that we enter, because at some point, it may not be in the short term, but it's going to be on the long term that built environment has an effect on our human biology.
Tell us about your background. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Santa Clarita, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. When I was 18, I decided that I would go off to college, which was Winthrop University in South Carolina. And it wasn't because I didn't like my parents. I loved my parents very much. I just knew that there was so much to explore. So I did my undergrad in political science. And the reason being, I had always hoped for a career in public policy. And so after graduation, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I worked on the Hill. And for me, there wasn't a connection yet. And so I felt like I needed something more creative, more hands-on. And the one thing that I kind of felt aligned with everything was my international travels. I always studied the architecture. And so I decided to go back to school for design. And at that point, I knew that I needed to go back to California. So I enrolled in this Design Institute of San Diego, moved to San Diego, and did my degree in commercial interior design.
Okay, so what inspired you to pursue this field of sustainable design?
Good question. So stemming off my love for community and service and doing something bigger than myself, my first year of interior design, I felt like I was failing in that. And there wasn't a connection with community until I learned about LEED. LEED is a credential system, leadership and energy efficiency design, and it was created to help our buildings be more energy efficient, more sustainable, have less impact on the planet. And I thought, this is it. This is the connection I needed to a higher purpose of what I'm doing. So I promised myself that by graduation, I would be a LEED AP. And my senior year, in the midst of working full time and going to school full time and senior projects, I passed the WELL AP exam. And I knew from that moment on, everything I would do in this career would be centered around the environment, health, human occupancy. And so I just continued to pursue that knowledge from there.
Okay, so you have a bachelor's degree in political science and later earned a bachelor's in fine arts as an interior designer, as well as studied at the prestigious Parsons School of Design. Has the combination of these fields of study helped with your work?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the Parsons School of Design I'm doing right now, that program fell into my lap by a colleague of mine, and I have learned so much about what we come in contact every day in terms of built environment and the materials we breathe, we touch, we consume, and I use that as knowledge for designers, right? So I work with a lot of designers on a daily basis, and interior designers are they're the gatekeeper for human health. They're the ones choosing which products to put in the built environment that accompany occupant health. And so this knowledge that I'm learning on my personal time, I absolutely use to benefit in terms to spread the knowledge to interior designers.
Tell us about your accomplishments as a triathlete.
Well, I mean, I don't want to undermine it, but I definitely haven't done an Ironman. So that'll be when my kids are out. I do the shorter distances, sprints and the Olympics. I love it. I used to do half marathons and realized that I don't really love running for that long of a distance. I got turned on to a triathlon a few years ago, and I've been in love since. I love the rush of it. I love the competitiveness of it. And I love the mix of the swimming, the biking, the running all in one day. And it fuels my need for accomplishment on a short-term scale.
Okay, so what would you want your legacy to be?
Oh, my legacy: never stop trying to change the world. It's kind of cliche, but it takes a little bit from everyone. And sometimes you can do it on a small scale by being a better recycler at home, or changing people's minds about how our built environment can affect human health. So find a way that you can leave an impact somewhere.
And that's what I liked about you when I met you. A lot of us just go along the way and so forth, but you're a very impressive person to me. Very few people impress me on an everyday, especially in where I met you, but this I was floored. So how can our listeners and viewers find out more about the WELL Building Standard and LEED Standard?
Sure. For WELL, I mean, you can go to wellcertified.com. You can go to WELL online. you can Google the video on health and safety rating commercial. I'm sure everyone would enjoy to watch that. The International Well Building Institute, you can look up what they've done, how they've created the standard. You can start asking the facilities operators in your building, what have you done for our space? What have you done to make it safe for me to return? You can start asking questions. And if they don't know the answer, then I would start asking more questions and maybe drop off a leaflet about the well building standard, about the health and safety rating. But never stop asking questions. Your spaces, you have an opportunity to go to a healthy and safe space to work in and to surround yourself in. And the building you work in should respond to that.
And for those who want to know more about you and your work, how can they find you on the World Wide Web?
Sure. I have a very active profile on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great space. I do everything well, everything sustainable, everything Milliken on LinkedIn. So that would probably be the best place.
Well, thank you so much, Denise. I am so pleased that you had some time to join my audience. And I know that you have helped all of us tremendously.
It's been an honor.
Thank you for joining us on the Foxworth Theory. Be sure to tune in on Tuesday at 9 p.m. on the Foxworth Theory Network.